This is part 5 of Federalist 69. I stopped in the middle of paragraph 9 and I read the footnote that Hamilton gives us. So we're going to start back right at that point. These are some of the other scholars that I have mentioned in the past that you can watch their videos and listen to their lectures, panel discussions, and when you have time, read their books. It would help you understand the founding of the founding of the nation better, the Constitution of the United States better. And also, when you come across their books, you will find a lot of other books that they have referred to, that they use, that they have in their bibliography. So check those out too. Okay, let me start reading this. If we compare the publicity which must necessarily attend the mode of appointment by the President and an entire branch of the national legislature with the privacy in the mode of appointment by the Governor of New York, closeted in a secret apartment with at most 4, and frequently with only 2 persons. Closeted means just they'll be just in a little room together, not necessarily apparent to the people, not necessarily transparent also. So it says when you compare that, and if we at the same time consider how much more easy it must be to influence the small number of which a council of appointment consists, than the considerable number of which the National Senate would consist, we cannot hesitate to pronounce that the power of the Chief Magistrate of this state in the disposition of offices must in practice be greatly superior to that of the Chief Magistrate of the Union. So when we compare how the governor of this state can appoint people to positions inside positions, high positions in this state, and compare it with what the president has to go through, which is getting the approval of 2/3 of the Senate for some of these positions that we talked about. So he says the president has much less power granted to it than what we have granted to our own governor in the state of New York. The next paragraph, hence it appears that, except as to the concurrent authority of the President in the article of treaties, it would be difficult to determine whether the magistrate would in the aggregate possess more or less power than the governor of New York. So with the exception of treaty-making power, you'll see that the governor of New York, relatively speaking, has more power when it comes to appointments and things like that in the state of New York than the president will have in the United States of America. And it appears yet more unequivocally that there is no pretense for the parallel which has been attempted between him and the King of Great Britain. So again, you can see that there's no comparison between him and King of Britain as far as absolute authority that's given to King of Britain, whereas here everything is in a way qualified, is limited. The last paragraph, let me finish the last line. But to render the contrast in this respect still more striking, it may be of use to throw the principal circumstances of dissimilitude into a closer group. The President of the United States would be an officer elected by the people for 4 years. The King of Great Britain is a perpetual and hereditary prince. The one would be amenable to personal punishment and disgrace. The person of the other is sacred and inviolable. The one would have qualified negative upon the acts of the legislative body. The other has an absolute negative. So here in this paragraph, he's just going to go give you a brief version of what he's given throughout this paper. The one would have qualified negative upon the acts of the legislative body. The other has an absolute negative. The one would have a right to command the military and naval forces of the nation. The other, in addition to this right, possesses that of declaring war and raising and regulating fleets and armies by his own authority. Remember, an important power that's given to the Congress is the power to declare wars. The president does not have such an authority. Unfortunately, lately, the weakness of the Congress of the United States and lack of responsibility has given the president much more power. So keep that in mind. The one would have a concurrent power with a branch of the legislature in the formation of treaties. The other is the sole possessor of the power of making treaties. The one would have a like concurrent authority in appointing officers. The other is the sole author of all appointments. The one can confer no privileges whatever. The other can make denizens of aliens, noblemen of commoners. So all these powers that the King of Britain has, there's no such thing given to the president. The King of Britain can even give titles of nobility. There's no such a thing and no such power in the President of the United States. Can erect corporations with all the rights incident to corporate bodies. The one can prescribe no rules concerning the commerce or currency of the nation. The other is in several respects the arbiter of commerce, and in this capacity can establish markets and fairs, can regulate weights and measures, can lay embargoes for a limited time, can coin money, can authorize or prohibit the circulation of foreign coin. So all these authorities that have been taken away from the president and given to the Congress, he says, all these are in the hands of the King of Britain. How dare you anti-federalists say that we have given enough authority and power to the president for him to act like the King of Britain? The one has no particle of a spiritual jurisdiction. The other is the supreme head and governor of the national church. So here, in Article 6, we say there's no religious test to go into office, to run for office in the federal government. There's no such a thing. Anything that has to do with religion of one sort or another that has to do with the office, with the executive branch. But over there, the King of Britain is head of a national church, Church of England. What answer shall we give to those who would persuade us that things so unlike resemble each other? The same that ought to be given to those who tell us that a government, the whole power of which would be in the hands of the elective and periodical servants of the people, is an aristocracy, a monarchy, and a despotism. So he's making fun of all these accusations that the anti-federalists are making, because he says, well, if we accept their premise that the president is almost like a king, then he's saying that your choosing of your representatives does not mean a thing. We're actually establishing a monarchy, aristocracy. You're actually electing your senators to be aristocrats rather than virtuous people that will work for your, to provide and to make it possible that the laws are will lead to your happiness and prosperity. He says, no such a thing is happening in the United States. So these anti-federalists are just coming up with crazy ideas, reading the Constitution of the United States superficially, and making all these wrong accusations and half lies and misrepresentations. So remember, please, to read along with me, especially if it's your first time that you're looking at the Federalist Papers. Definitely refer to all the books or lectures I've been referring to. Refer to the bibliography of some of the books by these scholars, because there you will come across a list of scholars that have done great works to make these guys' works possible. And then what you can do is maybe find out if those people have given talks about their books that are posted on different websites, and watch them, listen to them.